Welcome to Crime Story with Camila, where we dive deep into the most chilling and mysterious true crime cases. If you love real-life crime stories, make sure to like, subscribe, and share so you never miss an update. Your support helps us bring you the most in-depth investigations and untold stories. Today, we are diving into a tragic case that has left the LGBTQ+ community and many others outraged: the murder of a transgender man in New York. This heartbreaking crime has not only raised concerns about the safety of transgender individuals, but also highlighted the ongoing struggles they face in society. In this video, we will break down the details of the case, what we know so far, and the impact this brutal act has had on the community. We will also explore the broader issues of violence against transgender individuals and why justice in this case is so crucial. Let's begin with the story of the victim, who he was, what happened to him, and the questions that still remain unanswered. Sam Nordquist was a 24-year-old transgender man from Red Wing, Minnesota. He was known for his kind and compassionate nature, always striving to help those in need. He worked at a group home in Little Canada, where he cared for individuals with disabilities, reflecting his deep sense of empathy and dedication to making a difference in people's lives. Sam had a close relationship with his family and friends, who described him as someone with a warm spirit and a strong sense of self. He was open about his identity and actively engaged with the LGBTQ+ community, advocating for equality and acceptance. What began as a promising trip to New York quickly turned into a nightmare for 24-year-old Sam Nordquist. After arriving in the state in September 2024, he remained in touch with his family, assuring them of his safety. However, after January 1st, 2025, all communication abruptly stopped. His sudden silence was alarming, especially since he had been expected to return home to Minnesota after just a couple of weeks. At first, Sam's family hoped there was a simple explanation. Perhaps his phone was lost or out of battery. But as days passed without a single message, their concern grew into fear. They reached out to people who might have seen or heard from him, but no one seemed to know where he was. Weeks went by, and still, there was no sign of him. On February 9th, 2025, after exhausting all possible ways to contact Sam, his family officially reported him missing. Investigators began retracing his steps, looking into his last known location, phone records, and any individuals he may have interacted with. What they discovered was far more horrifying than anyone could have imagined. On February 13th, 2025, authorities found Sam's lifeless body in a field in Benton, New York. His remains showed signs of severe trauma, and as investigators pieced together what had happened, a shocking and deeply disturbing story unfolded. Sam had reportedly been held captive for over a month at a motel in Canandaigua, New York, where he suffered prolonged physical and psychological abuse. The details of his captivity remain under investigation, but reports suggest that he endured unimaginable suffering at the hands of multiple individuals. This was not just a case of a missing person, it was a case of extreme cruelty, torture, and ultimately murder. Law enforcement officials described the crime as beyond depraved, emphasizing the horrific nature of what Sam endured before his death. The brutality of the attack immediately led investigators to suspect that this was not just a random act of violence, but a targeted crime, one possibly fueled by hatred toward his identity as a transgender man. As the case gained national attention, members of the LGBTQ+ community and advocacy groups demanded justice. Sam's death became another painful reminder of the violence transgender individuals continue to face, highlighting the urgent need for better protection, stronger laws, and more awareness about the dangers of anti-trans hate crimes. While authorities worked on identifying those responsible, the public began asking pressing questions. Who were the people involved in this horrific act? Why was Sam targeted? And would justice truly be served? These questions would soon begin to be answered with the arrests of multiple suspects connected to the case. In the days following the discovery of Sam Nordquist's body, law enforcement agencies launched a large-scale investigation to uncover the truth behind his brutal murder. Given the horrifying circumstances of his death, authorities worked swiftly to track down those responsible. Through forensic evidence, surveillance footage, and digital communication records, investigators were able to piece together Sam's final weeks and identify key individuals who had interacted with him before he disappeared. Their findings led them to a motel in Canandaigua, New York, where Sam had been held captive and subjected to over a month of physical and psychological abuse. By February 15th, 2025, just 2 days after Sam's body was discovered, police had identified 5 primary suspects linked to the crime. 5 individuals have been arrested and charged with second-degree murder in connection with Sam's death. Precious Arzuaga, 38, of Geneva, New York. Jennifer A. Quijano, 30, of Geneva, New York. Kyle Sage, 33, of Hopewell, New York. Patrick A. Goodwin, 30, of Canandaigua, New York. Emily Motica, 19, of Lima, New York. On February 16th, They were taken into custody and formally charged. All 5 individuals now face second-degree murder charges, a serious offense under New York law that carries a potential sentence of life in prison if convicted. However, given the extreme cruelty of the crime, prosecutors and investigators are considering additional charges. Some of the charges being discussed include, due to Sam being forcibly held at the motel against his will, for the prolonged and repeated abuse he endured. If prosecutors determined that Sam was targeted because of his transgender identity. One of the most pressing questions in this case is whether the murder of Sam Nordquist will officially be classified as a hate crime. Under New York law, hate crimes are defined as violent offenses committed against an individual because of their race, sexual orientation, gender identity, religion, or other protected characteristics. While authorities have not yet confirmed whether hate crime charges will be added, the brutality of Sam's murder and the possibility that he was targeted due to his transgender identity have led many to demand that this case be recognized as such. If a hate crime enhancement is added, it could increase the severity of sentencing for those convicted. LGBTQ+ activists, legal experts, and advocacy organizations have urged law enforcement to take this aspect seriously. Many believe that failing to label this as a hate crime would ignore the larger pattern of violence against transgender individuals, which has been on the rise across the United States. Since their arrest, the 5 suspects have remained in police custody, with their first court appearances already underway. As they await trial, prosecutors are working to build a strong case to ensure that they are held fully accountable for their actions. Meanwhile, Sam's family, friends, and members of the LGBTQ+ community continue to demand justice. Vigils have been held in his honor, and social media campaigns have been launched to raise awareness about the dangers that transgender individuals face, particularly when meeting new people or traveling alone. This case is far from over. As the legal process continues, many hope that Sam's story will not only bring justice for him, but also serve as a wake-up call about the urgent need for stronger protections and harsher penalties for crimes against transgender individuals. The world will be watching closely to see whether justice is truly served. Sam Nordquist's murder is not just a tragic loss for his family and friends, it is a horrifying reminder of the violence that transgender individuals continue to face across the world. His story has sparked outrage, grief, and urgent calls for action from advocacy groups, community leaders, and those who believe in justice. We cannot allow Sam's death to become just another statistic. Now is the time to act. Share Sam's story and educate others about the rising violence against transgender individuals. The more people know, the harder it is for these crimes to be ignored. Groups like the National Center for Transgender Equality, NCD, GLAAD, and the Trevor Project work tirelessly to advocate for transgender rights, provide resources, and push for legal protections. Consider donating, volunteering, or spreading their message. Call on local and national authorities to classify this as a hate crime and ensure those responsible face the full consequences of their actions. Public pressure can make a difference in how cases are prosecuted. Advocate for stronger hate crime laws and better protections for transgender individuals. Contact your elected officials and demand action to ensure that crimes like this are taken seriously and prevented in the future. If you or someone you know is meeting someone new, traveling, or in a vulnerable situation, always prioritize safety. Let others know your plans, check in regularly, and trust your instincts. Sam deserved a future. He deserved safety. He deserved a world where his identity was not a reason for violence. While we cannot bring him back, we can honor his memory by fighting for a better, safer world for transgender individuals everywhere. Let's stand together. Let's demand justice. Let's make sure this never happens again.
Thanks for watching. For more interesting videos, please subscribe.